So Mr. Hill is first. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Adamsville Meet and Greet candidates for Atlanta Mayor for the November 2021 election on November the 2nd. It is our pleasure and a privilege to have you join us today. And I just want to let you know, I am a leader in the Adamsville community. I'm joined by several other leaders in the Atlanta area, Ms. Dunn Duhart, Ms. Little, Mr. Andrew Anderson, and Mr. Reginald Russian. So we're all going to be we're all from Southwest Atlanta, and it is our pleasure to welcome you here this afternoon. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I want you to sit back and relax. This is a meet and greet. You'll get a chance to talk to people that have seen your signs in their yard. They get an opportunity to see your face and who you are. You will have a minute and a half, no more than 2 minutes for the question. And we hope that you not go over, because then I have to say, thank you very much. And after your 2 minutes for the questions, then you will have a close, and we'll let you know of your close. And at that point, you will be free to join us on another medium. So again, we're going to go ahead and get started. It is my pleasure. Miss Little, are you with us? Could you please come on, join me?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Veronica Little, and I'm an advocate for the senior citizens in Adamsville.
Thank you very much, Miss Little. We're going to have some questions for Mr. Kenneth Hill. Mr. Hill, are you with us? Good afternoon, Mr. Hill. How are you today?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I'm having a challenge hearing you. Mr. Hill. Mr. Hill, join us when you can.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now. Miss Little is going to have the first question for you, and you will have 1.5, no more than 2 minutes to answer that question. Miss Little, would you ask Mr. Hill your first question, please? Can I hear you?
Okay.
What are your plans for the city jail? If yes, what are they? Can you share them with us?
Okay, yes. I believe you asked what would be my plans for the city jail.
Yes.
And thank you. That's a great question. With crime as pervasive as it is, the Fulton County Jail full and actually overcrowded, and that is a twofold problem. One, in a COVID environment, you don't need any space overcrowded in a COVID. And on two, when criminals know the jail is overcrowded and that the city jail is closed, then there's less of a focus for them to do the right thing because there's no way to house them if they are caught. So as mayor, I would allow Fulton County to do a partial lease of the building of the jail, not the entire building, but a portion of it to ease the overcrowding in the Fulton County jail. As they come up with a long-term plan, whether they're going to build another space or whatever, we have to have a place to keep inmates humanely. And also to send a message that if you're committing crime in Atlanta, you will go to jail. We do have space for you. We don't need to be repeat criminals or violent criminals back on the street before it's time just because the jails are overcrowded. I would like to use the rest of that building. Part of it could be for that purpose, but there are other services that are needed. Mental health is a serious need in our city. For a lot of the homeless people, mental health is the main driver to their homelessness. A lot of people through COVID have gone through things that have caused mental health to become issues. So I would also use a part of that building for mental health services as well.
Thank you so much. And I have another question for you, sir. What are your plans for increasing the number of police officers in the city?
Yes, that's another great question. And that is a part of solving the crime issue. It's not the solution, but it is a part of it. So my background with being with Home Depot for 30 years, in a managerial role for many of those years, I had to do recruiting and I had to do retaining of employees. And I found out that money is not always the thing that will make sure you're successful in recruiting and retaining. It's the environment that you create for people to work in. Nobody wants to go to work every day and hate their job, have a rundown place to work in, a boss that's not understanding. So as mayor, I'm going to recruit and retain a highly motivated police force by the leadership style that I demand of the top leadership from the police on down. I will recruit people from military, people backgrounds. I will begin to recruit people who are college students who are getting ready to figure out what they're going to do once they leave college. That's a good time to create an environment for them to investigate becoming a part of Atlanta Police Department. And when you have a department that has a high morale, where you have good management and leadership, you'll find that people want to come to you. So there's a lot of work to do. The precincts are in bad shape. I've been in them. So that needs to be fixed, but it can be done. I'm somebody that's not back down from a challenge. I will recruit and retain up to 2,000 officers during my administration.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. And in your closing, for a minute and one half, what else would you like for us to know about you?
Yes, ma'am. So, citizens of Atlanta, I live in this community. I live on Benjamin E. Mays Drive. And before that, I lived right off of MLK. So I know what our community goes through. I know what has been promised to us by leaders in the past. I know how the quality of life for us always seems to change every 4 years. It gets better on the election year. And that's unfortunate. And we don't deserve that. You deserve city services, quality of life, and inequities being addressed 365 days of every year. And because I live in this community, because I worked at the Cascade Home Depot for 12 of the 30 years that I worked. 12 of those years were there, where I hired people from this community, gave them opportunity to start a career. When I retired from the Home Depot, I started my nonprofit in this community where we provide homeless single moms housing. We provide affordable housing. We provide job skills and training to get them on their feet. And other than that, I reach out to the seniors and provide food drives, services to repairs to their homes. There's a passion in me about serving people, and this community deserves to have a mayor who will focus on the quality of life in Southwest Atlanta. It's ironic that we've had all of these mayors in the past that live in this area, but when you look at our area, you don't see the attention and focus that you would expect having the mayor elected and live in this community. I think it's time to stop that. We need better. We can't.
Can you hear me? Mr. Hill.
A lot of people talking today are going to make promises.
Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Mr. Hill, this is Mrs. Harris. Yes, listen, I'm just going to do one thing. I'm going to ask you to join me back in a few minutes because I do have another question I want to ask, and you can finish your close. I need to go to another candidate right now, but if you could just stay on this call because you will be coming right back to us, okay? All right. It's Mr. Andrews, are you there? Andrew Anderson, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
I'd like for you to introduce yourself, and you're also going to be asking the questions of candidate Moore.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Introduce yourself, please.
Hello, everybody. My name is Andrew Anderson. I am a home owner in MPUG. I've been with the City of Atlanta Fire Department for almost 10 years, and I was also born in this city.
Okay, Ms. Moore. Good afternoon and welcome to the call. Mr.
you.
Anderson, he's going to ask you the questions, and we're going to give you 2 minutes for his questions, or a minute and a half, because we want you to have a longer close. A minute and a half for, he has 3 questions to ask of you. So 1.5 minute, and after that, we're going to give you a 4-minute close.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Andrews, Anderson, please go ahead. Always
okay.
glad to have our young folks on join us. So please go ahead and ask candidate Moore your questions, please.
Okay, Council President, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Okay, great. So first question. My community and adjacent communities in Atlanta have been battling illegal dumping for years with no effective recourse to hold violators accountable. As mayor, what kind of plan would you implement to hold violators accountable?
Well, I certainly know the ills of all of these illegal dumps. I probably myself have fished out tens of thousands of tires out of my community. So to hold them accountable, we need to make sure that we can catch them. And so we probably need to institute in those areas that are frequent dump sites cameras so that we can maybe capture license plates or other things. And we also have to have enforcement officers in our public works department that can go after and seek after these dumpers. They are really devastating our community. And we got to put resources towards what we want the goal to be.
Okay, that was a good answer. Okay, next question. Across the Northwest sector and the entire South side of Atlanta, vacant and abandoned houses flourish. They continue to foster illegal activity, destroy the aesthetic of Atlanta, and are home to trees that destroy neighboring houses when they fall. As mayor, what solution would you have in place to address this problem?
Vacant and derelict properties have also been something I dealt with in the 5 terms that I was council member, and dealt with 4 years prior to that, and maybe even more as a neighborhood president and an aide to a council member in another district. We have changed our codes and done a lot of things. I believe we've got to find another form or measure that can help us quickly get these properties into compliance, or have them torn down if they're over 51% dilapidated. That may be that we would need to have another mechanism, and there are some out there in the country that have worked. We need to make sure it can work with state law. But I agree with you. It's been going on for a long time, and many of them are owned by banks, and we need to call them to shame if they are holding on to properties or signatories to properties that are blighting our community.
Okay, thank you for that answer. And the third and final question. In the city of Atlanta, especially the Northwest side, there are unpaved streets that go back 40 plus years, and residents live in these communities. As mayor, what assurance would you give to the residents?
Well, I will definitely, and be mayor, make sure that those unpaved roads are up in top priority. District 9 probably holds, the one that I represented for 5 terms, probably holds most of the unpaved streets in the city. Not all of them, but a large majority of them, many of which have been on lists, like the Quality of Life Bond for the old schoolers, remember that, Renew Atlanta, and other bond funds, but they always got pushed aside. It's time to push them forward. These residents should not have to live on gravel roads in 2021 and beyond. And so they will be on the top priority list, along with other unfinished projects, as we are looking to get a significant amount of funding if they ever get their act together in DC for infrastructure bonds. We need to make sure these projects get done.
Okay, thank you.
more, I have a question I'd like to ask of you. What special skill sets do you bring to the position of being mayor? I'd like you to answer that, and you have a 4-minute close. Please answer that question within your close and any other information you would like to share with us. Go ahead. You have 4 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'm Felicia Moore, and I want to be our next mayor. And I came to this as really not expecting to be a mayoral candidate, but have been called up to be that. I started as a neighborhood president. I chaired the neighborhood planning unit. I worked as an aide to City Hall, and that's really when I became a student of city government, learning what works and what doesn't work at City Hall to get what we have asked for in our communities. Then I ran for City Council. I beat a 2-term incumbent and served very dutifully in District 9, making sure that I was accessible to the people I serve, showing up and addressing the issues like the ones that you've mentioned today and others of concern. Also, District 9, I think, uniquely positions me at this point in time in our city to be mayor. And District 9 is the only district in the city that actually goes from Buckhead to Bankhead and everything in between. And we also have a large Latino population that most people don't know about. And so I have represented people with different income, ethnic brackets, just a variety of different people. And one thing that I found when I started was everyone felt neglected. So that was common no matter what part of the district I was in. But all of them wanted a responsive leadership, and that's what I provided for those years. Also, serving on council, I have chaired. I've served on every committee. I've chaired finance committee and served on it for every year that I was also elected, and also the other major committees like community development, human services, as well as transportation committee and committee on council. So I know how city government works, and I know how it doesn't work, and that gives me a unique skill set that makes me available and ready on day one to really address the issues. In addition, I am very much in tune with and have an intimate relationship with employees that do work at the city and have always been supportive, because the people who do the work at the city, the ones who are picking up your trash, fighting your fires, keeping the streets clean, our water clean, all of those employees, if they are not supported, we are not going to be able as elected officials to support you, our citizens. And knowing that relationship and the discussions I've had with them, I know that each and every department of our city is in critical condition and needs to be addressed. And I know on day one what those problems are and will address them. We do the great big things in the city, but what we haven't done is really focus on our fundamental basic city services. And that is a part of my platform. Also, a part of my platform are the 3 principles that I hold and have demonstrated from all the time that I was elected and will definitely demonstrate as mayor. 1, I believe in transparency in government, making it open, making sure people understand how their money is being spent, and making sure that it's spent wisely, appropriately, and not being abused, and it has been. I also believe in ethics, has many pieces of legislation to strengthen our ethics code, and have honorably served the city with integrity and will continue that integrity as mayor of the city of Atlanta. And finally, I truly believe in accountability. I don't care if it's an elected official, a police officer, a firefighter, or whatever person who is there to be entrusted to serve the citizens. I believe in doing what we say we're going to do. If we change our mind, we need to come and let the public know. If we make mistakes, we need to own up to them and tell people how we're going to correct them. I believe that we should be accountable to the people we serve. And I believe that people should be held accountable when they don't serve honorably. And that's why, as president, I'm proud to be the author of legislation that has gotten the first inspector general and compliance officer for the city, as well as the author of independent procurement review. We have a corruption cloud over City Hall. We need to clear it out. I think you're trying to tell me my time is up.
Yes, I am. We should appreciate that information. I'm sure our listeners are get the opportunity to hear you once again. Thank you, Mr. Anderson, he knows your area, and so those were questions that came from him and the leadership, Ms. Reynolds. So we were glad that he could join you and ask those questions. So you know where they're coming from, you know what they're dealing with. So we appreciate you joining us this afternoon, and we will be replaying this to everybody we know. So thank you so much, and thank you, Mr. Andrews, and thank you, candidate Moore. Bye now.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hill, are you there? Mr. Hill. Okay, Mr. Hill, thank you so very much
Yes, can you hear me?
for
Yes, no problem.
let me come back to you. I want to ask you a question, but I want you to include it in your 4-minute comment. One is, I know of the work that you do for cleanups. Could you just take a minute and talk about that first, and how can we make that happen throughout the city? Because I see the trash that's out there. What would be your one thing that you would suggest that maybe the neighborhoods could have some sort of awareness campaign? So just do a minute on that, and then you'll have 4 minutes to close.
So one of the things that I live by is community service. I teach it to my children. My family is involved in it. As mayor, I will make service a citywide focus, because my goal will not only for us to be the safest city, but the cleanest city. And when you look around, you go through downtown, there are just so many areas where it's obvious there's not a focus on cleaning up. Just because people are homeless doesn't mean there has to be squalor. So I would engage the NPUs. I would engage each city department, excuse me, to adopt areas of focus that I would also participate in doing cleanups. We've had the Adopt a Block program, but it hasn't really been enforced. And since COVID, it's really gone to the wayside. I would reinvigorate that. It would be a citywide focus where I'm counting on my staff, my chief, my executive staff, to contribute hours every month to their specific area of community cleanup that they're assigned to. So we would make that a citywide focus, and it will make an impact, along with changing the mindset of people. Installing more trash cans, teaching children, all of that will be a part of my focus.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hill. You have 4 minutes to close.
Okay, so today, people, you're going to hear a lot from people who are running for mayor, some who are in office now. You're going to hear a lot of people talking about what they will do as mayor, or what they promise to do. But we know so often that those promises are never kept, and they come back with good reasons that sound like, you know, they tried really hard. But I'm here to talk about things I have done. I've created opportunity in our community for homeless people to get on their feet using my own resources and my own nonprofit. I've provided affordable housing in our community using my own properties. I've taken literacy issues at our schools, Adamsville Elementary School before it closed, and then Miles Elementary, G.A. Towns Elementary before it closed, and now Harper Archer. I've taken those schools, those second and third graders, under my wing through programming and after school programs to help them understand their community is invested in them learning and them having a bright future. I've helped with seniors with food drives, delivering food, helping to purchase food, doing things to make sure seniors, some of them need their yards cut, and I've made sure that happened. It's just, I have a heart to serve, and my community needs so much. As your mayor, I will make sure this community has a quality of life it deserves, and it receives city services, not every 4 years when it's time for a next election, but every day of every year. That's my promise to you. I'm not making promises of things I have not already done. You can check my record. I will be a mayor who serves this community. Too many mayors have lived in this community and allowed this community to fall to the side. That will not happen under my administration. Thank you for your time today, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Hill, for those comments, and appreciate you being joining us today. It's Mr. Dickens. Can you please join me? Andre Dickens. Just a moment. Mr. Reginald Russian, would you join us, please? Mr. Russian, I'd like for you to ask candidate Dickens the question that you had, and you have 3 questions, and we're going to give you 1.5 minutes for the 3 questions per question, and then you're going to have 4 minutes to close. So, Mr. Russian, please introduce yourself and tell us who you are and where you're from, and then you may ask candidate Dickens. I don't want to say your other title, but candidate Dickens the questions. Go ahead, Mr. Russian. Please introduce yourself.
Okay, good afternoon, Mr. Dickens. How you doing today? I'm Reginald Russian. I'm the chairperson for Neighborhood Planning Unit P. I'm a product of the Atlanta Public Schools, and I'm also a United States Marine Corps veteran. Mr. Dickens, my first question to you is that what are your plans in reference for economic development here in the city, and how do you plan on maintaining affordable housing throughout the city of Atlanta?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Russian. It's always good to be with you as a great NPU leader. Listen, I'm born and raised here in Atlanta, Georgia, and the number one thing that we need right now is balanced growth across the city, balanced economic growth. Atlanta has known how to attract headquarters and regional offices and grow the city. I've served on Invest Atlanta before for 3 years, but what I want to see is that we focused on balanced economic growth. That means making sure that the South, the West, the Southwest side, and the Southeast side of the city of Atlanta has transformational growth. We want amenities. We need more grocery stores, medical facilities, and job centers in our town, in our part of town. I live in historic Collier Heights, and I was born and raised in Adamsville, just on the other side of Martin Luther King. And so what I want to see us do is have new development without displacement. And that leads into your second question, which is about affordable housing. There's no other council member or leader that's currently in the city of Atlanta that has done more about affordable housing policy creation and programs than I have. I've worked hard to create inclusionary zoning to make sure affordable housing is mandated around the Beltline at 10 to 15% levels and in the Vine City English Avenue area. I've helped to renovate, do senior rehabs on over 100 roofs of senior citizens across the city of Atlanta. That includes their roofs, their HVAC units, their windows. Now, when I become mayor, I'm going to make sure that we have a senior tax freeze so that they don't continue to have to pay exorbitant taxes. And I have a plan for that. My plan is to build 20,000 units, build or preserve 20,000 units of affordable housing in 8 years. And that definitely includes building on Bankhead, Bourne Homes, Hollywood Court, Inglewood, Herndon Homes, building mixed income communities from 30% AMI all the way up to market rate, but making sure we have levels of affordability across each of those. It's a shame that over 12 years, neither of the mayors have built affordable housing on these housing sites that's hundreds of acres. We have to do better, and we have to also build on our MARTA parking lots. Transit-oriented development is important, and affordable housing can go there. And we have to have anti-displacement measures like to fight gentrification, to keep people in their houses, to keep these market values from accelerating too fast on the tax rolls that Fulton County has that ends up costing us a lot of money. So I'll be there to fight for economic inclusion in the city. And this is what I do with my Tech Bridge program, where I train people to go from poverty to prosperity for free. I train hundreds of people in technology with my program at Tech Bridge. And I want to do that across the entire city in other industries like nursing and logistics, et cetera.
All right, thank you. My second question is that throughout the city and around the nation right now, there's a homeless pandemic that's going on. As mayor, what's your plan to approach the homeless issue here in the city?
Yeah, this is one of the most heart-wrenching parts of what's going on. Anybody with eyes can see that the unsheltered population has increased over the past year and a half across the nation. Individuals that are experiencing homelessness are choosing not to go into shelters as much as they used to. We still have shelter capacity, but they're choosing to take up a tent or sleep in a MARTA bus station, a MARTA bus shelter, to sleep on the corners or in front of or behind of a building. Individuals since COVID have started to not want to go into a shelter, but they will go into a hotel or motel or some sort of nicer establishment. It's preferential, but it's important for us to still make provisions for them. There are about 3,000 individuals that are experiencing homelessness in Atlanta, and that also includes women and children. Our APS school children do have people who sleep in cars, which is a moral travesty and something that we have to resolve. And how we do that, for me, is from the housing first model, which is to make sure that across the city, all old raggedy hotel motels, we use those, bring them up to some decent level so that we can put the people that are experiencing homelessness in those for about 30 to 60 days so that we could triage their problems. They may be experiencing mental health challenges and we can get them the help and care that they need. They may be having a drug addiction. We can get them the help that they need there. They may just be experiencing homelessness for a temporary reason, like they got evicted or that they have a domestic violence situation going on at home, some family issue. We can triage that situation for 30 to 60 days there. But I believe in housing first. It's hard to triage when you're sleeping on the backs outside or on a sidewalk. Get these people into a stable place so they can be fed and that we can take care of their needs with specialists and then move them out of that situation and rapidly rehouse them into the next phase, which is transitional housing, and help them get to a job. We have Georgia Works, we have First Step Staffing, and we have me as the city's mayor that will look out to make sure that we have a direct link between all the jobs that we have in the city and all these individuals that need those jobs.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And my third and final question is that since COVID, in reference to city services, as an NPU chair, I often get a lot of phone calls from people in the community complaining about the inconsistent city departments in reference to some of the services that the city should provide, such as sanitation, watershed, and even our infrastructure on the road. As mayor, how do you plan on addressing this particular issue?
Yes, this is a problem that has spiked up also in the past year and a half. We have tremendous amount of vacancies at the Public Works Department and in the Department of Transportation, also in our police department and fire departments. Across the board, there's been a challenge in the city of Atlanta, government, but also you see now hiring signs at restaurants, at retail, at the airport, all over the place. You're seeing we are hiring. And in Atlanta, we are hiring also. But I think that we need a mayor that's going to be more aggressive towards the hiring. I will be using funds that we have in reserves to be able to provide incentives for people beyond the incentives that were initially listed. I want to make sure that we get out of this COVID crime spike. Out of this COVID crime spike by hiring more officers, but also for us to be able to, when it comes to public works, we need to make sure that we get sanitation workers back on the truck. It was a problem at first because you couldn't have 3 men together and social distance. So people were getting COVID and they were out and there were family issues. So we were being very sensitive to that. But now it's time for us to pay even more to get them back to work so that people can get the city services that they deserve. Remember, I was a council member that authored the legislation to move the city services to all city employees up to $15 minimum wage. When I came into City Hall, they were making $10.10 an hour. I moved them up to $15 without a tax increase to citizens. I think we're going to have to look at moving it up even more to attract people to want to work for the city government and be competitive, because at the end of the day, the citizens deserve their trash, recycling, and yard trimmings to be picked up every single week. The last thing I'll say is, Reginald, I'm an engineer. I'm data driven. I think that the citizens should be able to see what the service level delivery is versus what the service level agreement is. They should be able to see a dashboard every week that says this many yards were picked up, this many were missed. And then also this pothole was supposed to be filled in 5 days. On average, they're going for 4.5 days. Or if they're going to 6 or 7 days, you can hold us accountable. We need a citizen-facing dashboard on all of our customer-facing interactions.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Dick, I need you to do your close in 2 minutes because you've had some extra time. I don't want to cut you off. So can you do 2.5 minutes in your close?
All right. Yes, ma'am. My apologies. Well, everyone, as you can see behind me, I'm Andre Dickens, and I'm running to be the next mayor. I was born and raised in Adamsville, off of Dollar Mill Court and Baker's Ferry and Boulder Park. My mom was a working class woman in the union of the Bell South, and I was the first in my family to go to college when I went to Georgia Tech to get a chemical engineering degree. I started my own business and grew it. I'm a dad. I'm a deacon, which means my faith is huge to me. My church is actually in Adamsville, right off of Westland Boulevard and Martin Luther King. I ran for city council and won in 2013. So I'm your at-large council member. I support the whole city. I won on a platform of restoring the public trust. Integrity is what you need in city government. You got to have a government that you can trust. I've done so many things in affordable housing. I've done a lot to make sure that seniors can stay in place, and I'll do even more when I become mayor. It's important to me that we have a balance in the city of Atlanta. We need grocery stores. We can't have any more food deserts. I won't be that mayor that will incentivize a stadium, but won't make sure that you have good grocery stores. We can't have people be unhealthy by living out of a Family Dollar for most of their groceries, or having a long commute to be able to get to Wayfield. We need to enhance our food options. Our emergency medical facilities need to be nearby on Martin Luther King and Campbellton Road and Donald Lee Hollowell. All these things are very important to me. And when I become mayor, you will be able to depend on me and trust me. I'm an engineer. I like to solve problems, and I'll do so with integrity, and I'll do so with the entire city in mind. And of course, the Adamsville of today is going to grow and thrive and make so many opportunities for everybody in Adamsville, so that the Adamsville of tomorrow is one that you can count on and love on. And we will do so by increasing your amenities without displacing you in this city. We're going to make sure that Atlanta grows and grows. It grows broadly in a balanced way. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Oh, you're on mute.
In the Adamsville community, we are making major changes, and we're in the process of formulating what we call the Adamsville Village. And it's an opportunity for us to come together for the youth, for the families, for the senior citizens. And it's about community engagement. We will not only be contacting you, but all the people we've talked to thus far, school boards, city council president, mayors. So, and what we're doing, the reason why we have this collaboration of the other NPUs, it's not just for Adamsville community. It will be for the whole Southwest or the Northwest. We don't care where they come from. All they have to be is a child that needs services that all of you have talked about. We want to see some action. So we are going to be on it. First of all, we're going to have everybody accountable, but we're going to be accountable to you. And then we want all of the candidates to be accountable for us as well. So we're looking for a 2022 that's going to make a big difference, not only in Adams, but all the Southwest, Atlanta, Northwest, and points beyond. So I thank y'all. I thank you, Mr. Rushing, for you submitting those questions. Thank you, candidate, for answering those questions. And thank you so very much for joining us today. Okay, I'd like to say for those that came in a little bit late, we want to welcome to the Adamsville meet and greet candidates for mayor for City of Atlanta. We have our election in November of 2021. We know how important it is to get out and vote. So today we brought you the candidates that have RSVP'd. They would like to have a conversation with you. And so this is our opportunity to do a meet and greet. And that's why the format is a little different from what you might normally see. At this point, I'd like to have Andrew Anderson, would you please come back and join me? Miss Rebecca King, would you join us as well? Mr. Andrews, I'd like for you to ask the questions that your set of questions that came from your community. And thank you for being on the call, Miss Rebecca King, and thank you, Ms. Anderson. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hello, Ms. King. How you doing?
I'm well, thanks.
All right. First question. My community and other communities in Atlanta have been battling illegal dumping for years with no effective recourse to hold the violators accountable. As mayor, what kind of plan would you implement to hold the violators accountable?
I would like to set up cameras and run by and have some sting type situations and also engage the neighbors to see what's going on. Your best eyes and ears are you in the neighborhood. You know more of what's going on locally. So engaging that, and also if it needs to be the property owner that's allowing a rundown property, let's work together, use Invest Atlanta, and see what we need to do to help tidy those properties. If it's money that needs to be invested, let's look at Invest Atlanta and the other commercial entities and nonprofits that are around you, because there's something that the root cause too if a property is left in disrepair.
Okay, that was a good answer. Next question. Across the northwest sector and the entire south side of Atlanta, vacant and abandoned houses flourish. They continue to foster illegal activity, destroy the aesthetic of Atlanta, and are home to trees that destroy the neighboring houses. As mayor, what solution will you have in place to address this problem?
It goes back to sorting out with the landowner. I don't think you can penalize your way out of it. Maybe someone doesn't have the finances even to list the property possibly. So I think as the city, we should work through Invest Atlanta to see and reach out to those landowners, what it is they need to bring that property into compliance. Is it possible it could even be a donation over to the with our affordable housing? That would help bring down the cost and put a family in that home. And with the Invest Atlanta, is it possible that we could also finance that? And it would be another opportunity to pull our homeless people off of the streets and get them into a home, and then those wraparound services that are needed badly.
Okay, third and final question. In the city of Atlanta, especially the northwest side, there are unpaved streets that go back 40 plus years, and residents live in these communities. As mayor, what assurance would you give these residents?
Well, you've seen what's been in office for a long time, and I think it's time for a fresh voice. In our condo building, what we did is we took a reserve study, and we need to say what has been out there the longest that has still not been repaired. That should be our first priority. If it's been said, it needs to be pulled forward, it needs to be done. Then moving forward, what is that time frame for each additional area? And it should be a path or a roadmap to show where we are, and a pinpoint, a pin drop to see that. You have so much technology in our area, and so many corporations that would be able to finance and help that technology, where you should be able as a resident to see when it was reported, when it's completed, or even when it should be the anticipated date. But those that are oldest need to be first.
All right, thank you.
And thank you for being a firefighter in Atlanta. I appreciate your service.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments and those questions, Mr. Anderson. Before we go, we're going to actually have you do your 4-minute close. Is there anything I'm going to ask you? Is there a question that you might like to answer that would take only a minute? And then you have your 4-minute close. Do you have a particular question you'd like to address us with?
How would you see the city representing you in terms of what would you like to see more of? Visibility, or as you just mentioned, streets, infrastructure. I know crime is on a lot of people's mind, but there are other things that are top and foremost in some neighborhoods in different situations. What do you see in your neighborhood?
Okay, all right, that gives us food for thought. I'd like you to go ahead and take this time to do your 4-minute close. Go ahead.
Sure. Absolutely. As I'm Rebecca King, I'm running for Atlanta mayor. I got into the race because I saw the things that have continued to happen, and I wanted to give a fresh voice and help Atlantans have a change so that we can rejuvenate Atlanta, work on crime together, homelessness, and bring the city back to its luster that she has, just dust her off a little bit and work together. As you may know or may not know, Buckhead has been interested in leaving the city, and I think that's a detriment to everyone. We may have not been the best neighbors, and we needed to recognize that crime is everywhere and infrastructure is a problem. So I feel like we should come together and work to solve these root issues of these concerns, the root problems that have led to the crime and homelessness. And build affordable housing so that we can have our firefighters, our police officers, people that work for the city live in the city if that's a concern, and also anyone that wants to be here, to be committed and work and be trained. If it is also you're already in affordable housing, what do you need in the tools to advance to get to another income level? I'm Rebecca King, and I look forward to meeting you. And I hope that you will take a look at my website, voterebeccaking.com. Thank you for your time.
I want to ask you, what special skills you bring to be the mayor? And of all the things you've heard in all the different forums and things you've been to, what would take you to the top of the list that supersedes everyone else? Give me a minute answer on that, please.
My skills are listening and working together, listening to all of the ideas and solutions, and then execution. We've been sitting for far too long waiting on someone else. I'm willing to get in, roll up my sleeves, pick up trash, whatever it takes. I serve on MPUB, so thank you to those that are on your call that have served with their MPU as well. We know the work that needs to be done, and I'm willing to get in and do the work.
Okay, I sure appreciate you again. Thank you so very much for joining us today. And we look forward to hearing from everyone again, because whether anybody's in or out of office, our city's going to be a better city because we're going to hold everybody accountable. Thank you so very much for joining us today. And thank you, Mr. Anderson, for joining us as well. At this point, I'd like to have Ms. Dunn Duhart. Would you please join us? And Mr. Roosevelt Sears, would you please join us? Mr. Roosevelt Sears and Miss Cynthia Dunn Duhart.
There we go.
Miss Duhart, will you join us? Is she on? Okay. Mr. Reginald Russian, would you please give Mr. Sears your questions, please? Is he on? Okay, hold on just a minute, Mr. Sears.
No problem. Take your time.
Okay, because I told them they would come off.
I think my time was at 5:10. That's what's a little early.
That's what it is. We have you a few minutes early, and so we had the moderator. So
Sure.
hold on, just okay, Mr. And I tell you, we're working you today now. Well, Mr. Anderson, since you're there, ask two of your questions, and then I'll ask two. Go ahead and ask the two questions of Mr. Sears that you want to ask, and I'll ask the other one. Mr. Andrews? Anderson, you there? Unmute. I'm calling you again. Mr. Andrew Anderson, you're on the screen. Mr. Anderson, would you please join me? Okay, I see Miss Veronica Little. Would you join us, and would you ask Mr. Sears your two questions, and I'll ask the other one. Go ahead, Miss Veronica Little.
Yes. Thank you. Good afternoon. How are you today?
Good afternoon. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm fine, Mr. Sears. Thank you so much for joining. I have two questions. Number one, what are your plans for the city jail? And if your answer is yes, can you tell us?
Well, that's a great question. So I was just talking to someone just a few minutes ago before I started the forum, and it was in reference to exactly what you just asked me about. And I have been incarcerated quite a few times, and each time was for driving on suspended license or driving while license withdrawn. And I was just trying to get to work. You know, my mom didn't kick me out, but I was being hard-headed. So I was deciding to do everything on my own. And getting to work was one of those things that I needed to do. So unfortunately, with the jail, I do believe that we should look at the sentencing and not allow people to be sentenced longer than 7 days for nonviolent crime. So if there's a traffic offense or something to that effect where it's a nonviolent crime, you should only spend up to 7 days. After that, they should be have to release you.
Thank you so much. And my final question, what are your plans for increasing the number of police officers in the city, please?
You have good questions. I love it.
Thank you.
So pretty much that's number one on my plan. I have it right here, but you can look at my website to, get some more. So I won't go too far into detail, but pretty much our officers are here to protect and serve. And so I believe that we should require them to do so. So I plan on introducing a piece of legislation called the Protect and Serve Quota, which will require officers to patrol our streets and actually go to schools, maybe hand out shoes, maybe it's talking to the water boys for 20 or 30 minutes, just doing something community engagement wise to show us that you are protecting and serving. Another thing to alleviate some of the tension that's put on our officers is the implementation of something called drones. A lot of cities have used the drones and they're starting to use drones to deter crime. And I use the Piedmont Park incident as a good example of when the drone would have been useful. An officer a mile or a block down the road could have had a drone that was surveilling that park area and seeing the guy following her, trailing her, and been able to respond in a timely manner. So we can't put all the blame on the officers. It is 2021, so we need to come up with some new ways for them to do their job.
Thank you so much. Ms. Harris?
Thank you for those questions, Ms. Little. My question is, let's go on the other side. And you said the things that you had done. What would you suggest that we do with some of our young students? Many times we wait till students are 13 and 14 and 15, but what we do in the Adamsville community, we focus on the smaller children. They're 5 and 6 years old. Best case scenario, what would you envision for students that are 5 until 10 years old? What kind of engagement, what kind of activities would you want to see them? Because we get them early, then when they see the police, they don't run from the police, they run to the police. So what would you do with young people from 5 to 10 years old? What kind of program do you see for them so that they won't have to be on the other side?
I mean, these are great questions because for one, I love kids. And, I pretty much raised my cousins, they're all of the age between 5 and 12. So I'm very familiar with this age group and, seeing how disengaged they have become, the depression and the suicide rates have gone up. And the disengagement just in school in general. I asked my cousin, what do you want to be when you grow up? Now she doesn't know, but 2 years ago she had it all figured out. So I believe that we need to start by listening to the students, listening to, just because you're 5 years old doesn't mean you don't have a voice or a real opinion. So I believe that sitting them down and saying, hey, how do you feel about wearing a mask all day? Or how do you feel about, having the social distance and not seeing your friends as much? What do you love to do? What do you want to do? Because one thing about it, as a parent, you feel like you've done the best job you've done and the best you can. And a lot of times the kids feel like, well, what about the passion that I did not get opportunity to bring to life? A lot of times parents send you down one road, which is school, military, or politics. And the student might want to be an artist, or they may want to be a business owner. So I believe that creating a program, in which I will be doing something called the Millennial Entrepreneurship School, which will be, and now that you've brought that age group up from 5 to 10, I would love to open it up to that group, because it was from 13 to 35. So we were looking to open it up for 5 to 35, so that they can be included as well. Because like I said, I've seen articles where there's 12-year-olds who graduated from college. So we can't put an age on knowledge, put it like that.
Okay, all right. We're going to go ahead and have your close. You have 4 minutes to tell us anything that you wanted us to know about you, your campaign, what your goals are. So we have 4 minutes to do a close for us. Please go ahead.
Okay, great. So first of all, I just want to thank you guys for inviting me to the forum. I'm moving around a lot because I'm super excited. Like, I just love actually even being afforded the opportunity to meet people as yourself and, you know, hear the voices of real people. So I call myself the people's mayor because I'm a people's person. And no matter the outcome of this race, I'm a person, not a politician. I tell people all the time, I've never been into politics. I've never been in an elected position, but I am a solution guy. So when I hear a problem, I try to figure out all the ways I can to create the solution. My mom tells me, "You always picking up people's problems. You know, you're always making people's problems your problem." But I feel like that's what I'm here to do. I feel like I was called here to help people, to hear a problem, you know, that someone is having. And if I can offer my assistance, whether that's financially or, you know, just giving them the time, sitting down. I've spoken to about 1,500 homeless people in the last month. And I can just say that every single day I was out there from 9 o'clock in the morning to about 9 or 10 at night. And what I've heard the most is that they feel left out. They feel abandoned. A lot of people don't even know who the mayor is. I've met people who think the mayor is Stacey Abrams. So I believe that being engaged in your community and actually going out, holding events, hosting forums, not just during the election, but all throughout the year, where people can come down and be invited to see the legislation making process, have more of a voice in the decision making. Because a lot of times we elect politicians and people who have never been never been in our shoes, or not have experienced what we have been through, and they're making the decisions for our lives. So number one is to engage with the public. And I plan on doing that by creating the People's Media. Like I said, please go to my website. There are about 11 things that I plan on implementing during the first 100 days of office. And I believe that everyone should have a suggestion and an opinion as well on who their next mayor should be. So I'm open to all questions. If you would like to contact me, my phone number is 470-377-3448. And thank you again for having me.
One last question before you go. You talked about the program that you were going to be implementing. What's the name of that program?
Yes, so there's actually 2 programs. There's a fund and then there's a program. The program is going to be called the Millennial Entrepreneurship School. So it's actually going to be an entire new school system where students who say they don't want to go the traditional route, they will be allowed to go to another facility where the teachers are business owners and community leaders and owners and CEOs of certain organizations. The fund would be called the Entrepreneurship Fund, and we will be giving grants between $1,000 and $10,000 to qualified individuals. Like I say, 13 and 35, but we will open it up. Well, I don't know about
For
a 5-year-old
babies,
yet,
yes.
right? But you know, we definitely will be looking into those options and speaking to the parents and getting them more engaged into the child, not into what we want for the child, but what does the child want for themselves.
Okay. All right. I should appreciate, again, thank you so very much for joining us this afternoon. And Ms. Little, thank you so very much for staying on the line. Appreciate both of you for being with us. And
Thank you.
you'll be hearing from us.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, it's
Okay.
nice to meet y'all.
Thank
Be
you.
safe. All right.
All right. Bye now. Okay, move right along. We have Mr. Richard Wright. I need to see if Miss Dunn Duhart is back on the call. What we did, we had scheduled, we are literally ahead of schedule. And so that's a good thing. So we're going to go ahead and we have her questions. And we're going to ask, I think, Mr. Andrew Anderson, do you have her questions?
Yes, ma'am, I do. I do
Oh,
have
she's on there. Oh, that's Kirsten. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead and ask the question that Miss Dunn Duhart had for the community. Does she have an intro on her sheet, Mr. Anderson?
No, ma'am, she doesn't. She just has 3 questions.
Okay, let me say about her. She is actually coming representing the NPUI, and that is Miss Eunice Glover is the chairperson. And so we had them again. This is a collaborative thing from all the NPUs in the for this initiative, because voting is important to each and every one of us. And we know when we vote, we give our voice. And so that's why we wanted to make sure that we did a collaboration with not just Southwest Atlanta for this time, but the entire city of Atlanta in the near future. So she does come from that community. She gave some very good questions. Evidently, she must be having some technical difficulty, because I'm seeing where she had a note that she was going to come back on. But we're not going to keep y'all. We're going to move right along and probably close early. So, and first of all, let me tell you what, just mention what the NPU system is. It's neighborhood planning units. The city's divided into different sections. Started many years ago by our former Mayor Jackson. And so I'm actually NPU chair for my community. And so we're coming together as a partnership to make this event happen today. So Mr. Anderson, he's representing NPUG. So would you at this point ask the question for NPUI?
All right, so the 3 questions on behalf of NPUI. The first one is addressing flooding in NPUI. We have a lot of homes and streets that have been negatively impacted by the poor sewage system. And we also have creeks that have been negatively impacted by development. As mayor, what would you do to address these issues?
Well, first, let me say thank you very much for inviting me and having me on today. I believe in a smart city, and a smart city is composed of. I plan on bringing in two offices to institute a smart city, and that is the Office of Sustainability and the Office of Infrastructure. And so this is a specific infrastructure issue, and it's caused by climate stressors. That's what causes flooding. Is we have climate change going on, and it is not being addressed locally in the best way that it can be. So if you have a stressor, which is floods, you're going to have flooding, and you're going to have other environmental issues like mold. And a lot of times it is in our communities that these issues happen. So when the Office of Sustainability works with the Office of Infrastructure to really mitigate the issue by first analyzing what's causing the problem, and we kind of know that it is flooding, and then using technology to mitigate the issues.
Okay. Next question. NPUI has some of the most hazardous streets in the city of Atlanta, including on Donnelly Hallowell, Martin Luther King Jr., Cascade Road, and Campbellton Road. And in addition to that, the speeding on these streets are out of control. As mayor, what would you do with your administration to address these issues?
I think the first thing that my administration is going to concentrate on is working with NPUs and bringing the power to the NPUs. The mayor's office doesn't have all of the issues, but what we can do is work on some of the solutions with the NPUs. And so in terms of the actual street conditions, the Office of Infrastructure will be over creating and using the infrastructure dollars that are coming from the infrastructure bill to better our streets. We had to impose some fiscal responsibility, because we had a bond that was released and that was issued in 2015 that the majority of the funds were supposed to be used to fix our streets, and along with sales tax increases. And it was found after an audit that 75% of the funds had been already used, and this was in 2019. And so it was a 10-year bond. So they were letting us know pretty much that there's not going to be money left over to pave streets, to keep streets safe for pedestrians. And so as a CPA, I'm going to implement good, just sound financial oversight along with city council. Then number two is use the infrastructure dollars to correct the issues, the problems that are going on with the transportation in terms of our streets. And also, when it comes to speeding up and down the streets, we're going to use technology for over our lights to really get the license plates of the speeders, and so we can identify who's speeding up and down the streets.
Okay, thank you for that. So third and final question. Amir Faroukhi's ordinance will impact one of the historic neighborhoods in MPUI. RH Wright single-family homes where seniors in their 80s and 90s live, and also homes dating back to 1910. As mayor, how will you address this ordinance?
Well, I haven't read the ordinance yet, so I will have to read the ordinance to see what is proposed in the ordinance. So I will have to read it first.
Okay, I apologize. I actually don't have the ordinance on hand.
Okay. So yeah, I would definitely like to take a look at it before I gave an answer to it.
Right. And we appreciate that because she was prepared to actually cover that. And so she's not back on the feed now. But I do thank you for that. And before you do your close, I'd like to ask you a question. And if you could take 1 minute to answer my question, and then you can carry it over into your 4-minute close before we have the last person come on. My question is, what special skill sets are you bringing to the office that you want to be mayor?
I am a CPA by day. And so, I bring a fiscal acumen knowledge to the position, and it's very, very important. I stress it, how important fiscal responsibility is. It's kind of one of those unseen things that you can, in fact, put your hands on. The last question was dealing with an area of fiscal responsibility because of the fact that a bond was issued in 2015, and there was supposed to be a sales tax increase dollars going to fix our roads. And lo and behold, the audit came about, and 75% of the funds are gone now, and we still have bad streets. And so one of my skill sets that I bring that I feel is unique is that I am a CPA. I don't think we've ever had a CPA, and I don't think anybody else running currently is a CPA. So I'm going to have the corporate background to really engage with the community, communicate with the community, communicate with business to make Atlanta more sound fiscally. Because once you get more sound fiscally, then you can pass the savings on to the citizens, right? There are dollars that could be reinvested in the community, but somebody has to analyze the budget, analyze the revenues, analyze the expenses, and find those sources of those revenue streams, and also cut down on the cost so we can have our rec centers back open. I don't mean to go overboard, but I was listening to your last interview, and one thing I want to bring for the kids is public-private partnerships. I ask people who is Joseph L. Surlis III, right? A lot of us don't even know who he is. He was the first African-American investment banker on the NYC, New York Stock Exchange, right? Why can't we have a Joseph L. Surlis III Investment Banking Institute with a public-private partnership with the New York Stock Exchange, with corporate America here, with the city, right? That would give our kids something to dream and hope to be. And so that's just things that when we analyze the budget correctly and when we look at revenue streams and expenses and say, okay, if we save $1 million here, we save another $2 million here, that's $3 million that we can use to public-private partnership with private business to have the Joseph L. Sirles III Investment Banking Institute, so we can train 1,000 kids. We can give them something to do after school. That's what we need. We need somebody who's passionate about it and who also has the knowledge to get it done. I'm sorry if I took longer than a minute, but I'm kind of passionate about
Thank you. Thanks for the answer. It was a great answer. So I've answered. We're on his close. You have 4 minutes to share anything you want us to know about you and your campaign. And so go ahead.
Okay, first I would like to thank you for inviting me here. I get excited when I get to talk to the public. And my name is Richard Wright. I moved here in 1997 with the GED, and I moved here to be a rapper. And so my rap career that did not go very well. So my mother taught me into going to college because I didn't think I was college material. But she taught me into it. I ended up going to school, small school called Hurlers in College. And 3 years later, I had an undergrad degree. 4 years later, I had an MBA. I went on to get my CPA license and attend Georgetown Law School. So one thing that I bring to the position is just hope that people can look at me. I'm no better than anybody else. I'm no smarter than anybody else in Adamsville, the Buckhead. I'm not better than anybody else. It takes hard work, but once you put hard work to what you want to be and what your gifts are, you can be whatever you want to be. So hopefully that kids can look at their future mayor and say, hey, Richard came down here with a GED. He ended up being mayor. And so that's one thing that I could bring. That's just an intangible. It's hard to touch. Now, as far as policies goes, we have a crime issue, right? But we have a systemic poverty issue because we have a broken relationship issues. APD and the community need to speak more, communicate more. That's how relationships are built. And that's how relationships survive from marriage on down. And so I want to have equality in policing, and I want to move from zone policing to district policing. And district policing is where a major is responsible for the public safety in your district. That major will come down, speak to the community, speak to the business owners, develop a relationship with the community. That's how you start having trust from the community, is when you build a relationship with the community. And so once officers have to deal with a district rather than a zone, because the math is all, we have 6 zones and we have 12 districts. That's just bad math, right? We need a major who's responsible for each district so the officers can get out and talk to people, right? You gotta have communication. That's how trust gets built. That's how relationships survive. And so that's one thing I plan on bringing. I plan on doing what's called 100 for 100, and that is raising $100 million for 100 small African-American businesses. African-American businesses, for large part, do not have access to capital. That's the honesty of it, right? It's there, but we don't have access to it. We don't know about it. Well, I want to bring the public-private partnerships with venture capitalists, with private equity groups, with corporate America, with the big banks, so that they can invest in African-American entrepreneurship, Black equity, right? I call it good, better, best, right? A job is good, right? A career is better, but equity is best. So when we own more in our community, you'll see how the community changes. Next thing that I want to work on is really addressing affordable housing from a strategic financial standpoint, right? Because it's happening, gentrification is happening, right? How do you make it inclusive? How do you make it equitable? That's the question, right? Yeah, that's the question, right? And so we have disparities in our environments. Brookings Institute did a report, and they found Atlanta to be the most, out of 17 cities that they studied, to be the most racially divided. In white neighborhoods, the median home value was $500,000, and the African American neighborhoods, it was $150,000. That $350,000 gap was the biggest in the country. In terms of the credit score. In white neighborhoods, the average in the city of Atlanta, the average credit score was 720. The average Black credit score was 560. That's the largest in the country, right? I, as a mayor, have a responsibility to everybody, right, from Buckhead to Bankhead, to have a more inclusive city than we currently have. And it's going to take me working with developers. Am I going over?
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to
30 seconds to close.
Okay, 30 seconds close. Well,
Yes.
as you can see, I'm passionate about helping people and about helping the citizens, and I'm glad that I got the opportunity to speak to you guys and to let you know that my website is www.rightforratl.com, and November 2nd is voting, and voting is the only time that you and Bill Gates will matter the same, is when you vote.
Well, thank you so very much for your comments, Mr. Wright. Appreciate you taking time to be with us this afternoon. And again, we appreciate you and hope this gave you a platform to share with others, because we will be sharing the recordings with other neighbors that were unable to be here at this time.
Okay.
And so we're going to be making sure that the citizens in our neighborhood, and we're encouraging all the neighborhoods that are on with us to make sure that we give information so that they can go on and when they go to vote, they're voting their choice. They're not voting what somebody else tell them to vote for. They're voting for people that they know should do the right thing. And in essence, what I heard from you saying is listen to your mom when they talk, and that you know where the money is going to be spent. And so those are some things that need to be universal in all that we do. Listen to moms and watch where you spend the money. So again, we want to thank you. And as we close with our final speaker, thank you so very much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Has Miss Dunn Duhart, has she been able to come back on yet? Okay. What we're gonna do at this point, we do have is the saying is last but not least, she's going to bring it for us. We have a candidate that's going to be joining us in a few minutes. Miss Kirsten Dunn is going to be joining us. But what we want to do, we're going off script for a minute. I have two questions for her, but Miss Veronica Little, I don't want you to do the question you have. I want you just to ask her a question that you want to ask. Unscripted, whatever you want to ask her, but we want to again thank you for Ms. Dunn for being on here and for being a candidate for the mayor for the city of Atlanta. And Ms. Veronica Little is going to ask you a question that no one's heard this afternoon but you. So Go ahead, Ms. Veronica Little. Anything you want to talk about with her, and she'll have 2 minutes to answer that question. Go ahead, Ms. Little.
Thank you so much. Good evening. How are you, first of all?
I am wonderful. I'm breathing on this side of life, so I'm wonderful.
Great answer. Well, my question is, as mayor, what will you bring to the table? What will you do? I am an advocate for senior citizens, and we're always getting the short end of the stick from Medicare, Medicaid, food, etc., etc. Did I say etc.?
Yes, you did.
That's my question. What are you going to do for us? I'm a senior citizen.
Absolutely. You know, Ms. Little, I love that question. And I'm so excited that I got to be the one to answer it, first of all. So, you know, the last shall be first. You know, that's what the Bible says. So
Absolutely.
I'm a God girl all day. But I'm super excited about being able to cater to our senior citizens, first of all, because it's super important that we take care of everyone in Atlanta and nobody gets left out. There's 2 love languages that I talk about all the time that are not as communicated should be. And one of those is inclusion, and the other one is understanding. We have to first make sure that we're including senior citizens in every decision that we're making, and make sure that seniors are able to vote on these decisions, that their opinions are being heard, and that their thought process of everything is being taken into consideration. So inclusion is a major part. Another thing is understanding, just simply understanding. My grandmother, she decided to go into a home. And whenever we made the decision as a family to do that, we had to all play our part. We had to all play together and how we were going to do that. What happens when you have somebody that's in that position that does not have family? We're one Atlanta. Under my leadership, we are one Atlanta. So we have to take everyone into consideration and take every factor into consideration, whether you have proper insurance, making sure that your health care is top notch and that it's affordable, and that however the city can complement and make sure that health care is being taken care of on that end. Also, just quality of life, period, quality of life. Seniors gave us and made us who we are today. If it wasn't for you, Miss Little, we would not be sitting here. Everybody played a part in it. So it's super important that we look back and make sure that we're taking care of the people that took care of us. So just making sure understanding and inclusion is being brought in under my leadership is super important, because to make the assumption that we know exactly what you need, that's not wise. We got to ask the right questions.
Thank you so much, and we're going to hold you accountable.
Yes, ma'am. And you know what, Miss Little, another thing that I already do, I'm a master optician and I have several optical stores. And we actually give free glasses to senior citizens because we know optical is one of the most expensive things of healthcare. And 80% of your ability to learn is your ability to see. So we actually cater to seniors with their optical needs.
Okay.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Ms. Little. I'd like Mr. Andrew Anderson. This is a question that has not been asked of anyone this afternoon. So from you, what question would you ask Ms. Dunn about anything? And she'll have 2 minutes to answer your question. If she was mayor, what would you want her to, whatever question you want to ask her?
Okay. So with all the parks that we have in the city of Atlanta, the more premier parks, Piedmont, and even the West Side, the new West Side Park, our premier and frontline parks tend to be given a lot more resources and detail in maintenance in comparison to the small ones. So when you get in the office with your administration, what kind of changes would you make from a budgetary perspective and a leadership perspective to make sure that the parks in smaller neighborhoods with less notoriety are not an oversight?
Absolutely. It's so important. So as a homeschool mom, parks are everything to me because we're constantly going to different parks and all of that. So it's super important that parks are taken care of because that's kind of our livelihood. That's how we do science. Okay. But when it comes to being able to budget wise, as far as even the strategy behind making sure all the parks are taken care of, not just the premier parks, is getting the community involved. Getting the community involved. Just simply, even like what we're doing with the Cleophas Park that's located right down the street from the to come together to do a cleanup. And that's something that we're not waiting until I get in office to go do. We're doing that now. We're getting together to go over to Cleophas Park and do a cleanup. And so simply just getting the community involved. This is our city. It's our city. It's not them over there. It's not, in just the different EPU. This is all of us together. Just like you guys collectively came together to put this event together. We can all collectively come together to adopt a park and have different churches, nonprofit organizations, all these different organizations come together, adopt a park, and let that be their pride and joy. We could even create a little competition with it. Because I don't know about y'all. Obviously, I like a little competition. I entered a race with 13 other people. Yeah, right. But we could even create a little competition. Who has the cleanest park? Who's going to take on the trophy of the cleanest park this time? I mean, it's simple things like that that takes pride in our city. It's one Atlanta. It's our city. It's us coming together. And it doesn't take a big chunk out of the budget to get people to love their city, right? And to take pride in our city. So really just bringing everybody together, unified, and adopting parks out. Because I know there's churches that will adopt a park. I know there's schools that will make it a part of their school project just to get out and pick up trash, just to get out and help keep grass cut and things like that. We can even create horticulture programs inside the schools for them to be able to take care of parks. There's so many creative things that we can come together collectively to do to make sure that our parks are kept clean and it not cost a lot of money.
All right. I thank you for that question, Mr. Anderson. I appreciate you participating this afternoon. And I have a question that I'd like to ask. We talk about there's so much diversity, all kinds of diversity in the city of Atlanta. What would you do to perhaps an attempt to unify the entire city? What would it take? And that will be your 2-minute question, and then you can close with a 4-minute anything else. And with that 4 minutes, I want you to know what special skills you bring within your 4 minutes. So go ahead, it's on you now.
Absolutely. So you started speaking my language. If you notice, I started rocking when you started talking about unity because you speak in my language. I know it sounds very cliche to say that we need to unify. We need old Atlanta and new Atlanta to come together. We need the transplants that this is now home to have just as much pride in Atlanta as people that were born and raised here. We have got to unify. You guys, unity is the foundation of us solving every problem. Every problem that we have, unity is the foundation. So one of the ways that I plan on unifying our city is something I'm not waiting to do. This is the thing. I don't need the title to go to work. The title just gives me more authority to do more work. That's all it is. I don't need the title to go to work. So one of my campaign staff members is a community liaison that has already been communicating with the different precincts in the police departments, as well as different NPUs, making contacts out to be able to create a unified ceasefire initiative. And a ceasefire initiative, what this is to target and launch a war on crime, but a love for people. It's bringing us together to be able to solve our problems. It's bringing us together to be able to communicate effectively to solve our problems. It's not enough platforms of communication happening. It's just not. It's not enough conversations being had. Communication creates unity. Understanding and inclusion is the key to unity. So really bringing everybody in a space to be able to have these conversations, whether it be digitally, whether it be physically, no matter what happens, we have to continue to have unifying conversations. So just being able to do the ceasefire initiative, and if nobody's familiar with the street ceasefire, definitely go look it up. It originated in Chicago. It's something that I was able to participate in when it took place in Fort Worth, Texas. And it's just, it is an entire initiative that brings crime down through street level outreach, public education, community mobilization, faith leadership, bringing in clergy and churches, and police and prosecutor participation. So it's bringing everybody together on a unified note to be, and the way we do that is through communication, inclusion, and understanding. And so what I bring to the table, in closing, what I bring to the table, I have a PhD in life. I bring a level of transparency that I can guarantee 100% say the majority of the candidates do not. And it's not saying that they're not wonderful people. It's just saying that unity is what runs through my blood, because it's something that's necessary for all of us to live. And being able to unify the city of Atlanta to where we can experience healing, have our right of public safety, have our right of being able to enjoy the beautiful Atlanta that we all know and love. And so I bring that to the table. How is that possible? The number one thing that I'll leave you with is this. No matter what life has thrown me, I have always been resilient. I was orphaned at the age of 11 and 13, ended up in foster care. After foster care, I spent 7 years of my life in and out of recidivism. Today, I'm a business owner, I'm a single mother, and I'm a proud woman, can stand up as an African-American woman. I've been able to run multi-million-dollar businesses that I've created, and I'm ready to bring unity to the city of Atlanta. We need to heal. We need to heal. We have hard times ahead, and it's going to take us standing together to get it done. So we need to heal, and everybody needs to be at the table, not just those that are politically charged. Everybody. All of us need to be a part of this conversation. All of us need to be a part of running this city. And under my leadership, inclusion will be the number one thing. So my name is Kirsten Elise Dunn. You can find me at kirstendunn4mayor.com. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Please feel free to reach out to me on the website. Any questions, any interviews, anything that anybody wants to ask, I'm open to talk about. I'm super excited about leading us to healing.
Well, we do appreciate you for being with us. I'd like to again thank the moderators that we had today, Ms. Little, Mr. Anderson, Mr. Russian, and the NP, Ms. Dunn Duhart. She did sign on earlier. We appreciate this opportunity. And again, on behalf of the Adamsville meet and greet candidates, we had a forum on September the 14th, September the 16th, with all the APS, the Atlanta Public School Board members were there, City Council President, we had City Council was represented, and we had posts 1, 2, and 3 at large. Over 40 candidates had the opportunity because of the Georgia Stand Up technology that was offered to our communities so that this was possible. Again, we'd like to thank the leadership of Ms. Reynolds, Ms. Glover, and Mr. Russian for being part of this collaborative partnership this afternoon and the prior 3. They are on YouTube and on Facebook, so you get a chance to see all the other people that want our vote. We have committed to be accountable to them as well as we want them to be accountable to us. With that being said, come January in 2020, it's going to be a new city. It has been our pleasure to hear all the things that are being done by the various candidates. And trust me, I told the other groups that we have you on speed dial. So this will not be the end of the relationship building because you have some excellent ideas. And just imagine you have 30 people, 40 people coming together with some new ideas, not only for children, but for families, but for diversity, but for inclusion. Atlanta's going to be a better place. But it starts with our election. So all those that are listening to our voices today, again, we appreciate each and every one of you for being with us, and hope you've been there, be it 1, 2, or all 3 times. We want to thank you for your time. Again, I'm Mrs. Harris. I represent MPUH. And one last thing I want to share with you that on behalf of our community, we started in 2020 with an initiative. It's called We Care Food Share Program. And September and December of last year, we were able to give away $25,000 that was given to us by a grant from Fulton County Emergency COVID Funding. We were able to share 750 opportunities for people to come and shop at Wayfield Food Store. And also we gave away 350 turkeys between September and December. Well, this year we're going to, food is very important to us. In October, we're going to be giving away 400 turkeys to the Adamsville residents. They will be pre-registered and they have to participate in our healthy food initiative, and they will get a turkey once they leave the store. Also, we are in the process of having negotiating to have 400 hot meals brought to our seniors and some of the families in November. So again, it's because of all of you we are here, and now it gives me the pleasure of thanking Georgia Stand Up. I had the opportunity to be in their first class, many years, their leadership class. And after I left that class, I saw what was happening throughout the city and the impact they were having on communities. And ever since then, when Georgia Stands Up calls, we make sure that Adamsville is there. And on behalf of the CEO, Ms. Deborah Scott, we sincerely appreciate each and every one of her and her staff for all that they do, not just for our community, but for all the communities around the city of Atlanta and other parts. They're now in East Point, Forest Park, it doesn't matter. They have a heart to help everybody. So again, thank each and every one of you. Appreciate y'all for staying on the call. And it gives me great pleasure to turn it over to Ms. Singleton. Please close us out for this afternoon and for all of our things that we've had with Georgia Stand Up.
Thank you so much, Ms. Harris. It's just been a pleasure to be able to provide and host and assist Adamsville community with providing such informative information for hopeful voters. As you know, we have our Stand Up and Vote campaign where we're not only doing get out to vote and voter registration, but we're also doing voter education. And this right here is a part of that. So we thank you for bringing this to us and being able to provide this. I know that it started off where you had a vision to do just Adamsville and making sure that we had a small number, but your vision was way broader than that. And the meet and greet actually came to you and you were able to expand. And so we appreciate you taking on that task to do so. Georgia Stand Up is very appreciative. Like I said, we have our Stand Up and Vote campaign where we're doing voter registration, voter education, and getting out to vote. Right now, we're currently in the process of getting ready to finish our voter registration. So if you're interested in doing voter registration for the next 2 weeks, please contact Georgia Stand Up at 404-581-0061 so we can get you started and engaged in the process of getting other people engaged and started. Georgia Stand Up is doing this under a host of a lot of different candidate forums that we're doing. We just did East Point's candidates forums on this past Tuesday, which we will be re-airing tomorrow on our social medias, YouTube and Facebook. And we will soon be doing South Fulton, and you will again see the Atlanta mayoral candidates in our Atlanta forum that will be held mid-October. So we are looking forward to do that. Remember, the last day to register to vote is October 4th. Early voting begins October 12th, and election day is November 2nd. So make sure that you are staying engaged. Check your registration, check your addresses, and make sure you are engaged and that you are vote ready. This has been brought to you by Georgia Stand Up along with Adamsville under Black Youth Vote and Black Women's Roundtable. We are so happy to be here. So thank you so much, Ms. Harris.
The that we were able to get was to, if you go to voteatl.org, that's V as in Victor, OTEATL.org. You will see the candidates' profiles, you'll see their websites. So any additional information would aid you in making the choice that you think the person be the best mayor for the city of Atlanta, and the other posts we talked about. Voteatl.org. Thank you, good evening, and have a wonderful weekend. Bye.